Hello students, today we are going to discuss Mendel's laws of inheritance. As I had told you earlier, Mendel has given 3 laws of inheritance. The first law, 3 laws given by Mendel. The first law is called law of dominance. The second law is called law of segregation, or this law is also called law of purity of gametes, and the third law is called law of independent assortment. Now these 2 laws, the first 2 laws are based on inheritance of one gene, and the second law is based on inheritance of 2 genes. So to explain this, I am now going to do the monohybrid cross first and then the dihybrid cross. Now, and before I explain the laws, I will explain a monohybrid cross to you, because I told you the first 2 laws, the law of dominance and law of segregation, or the law of purity of gametes, is based on monohybrid cross or inheritance of one gene. So, monohybrid cross. Here we are going to take 2 pure plants and we are taking into consideration one character or 2 different forms of one character. Now, tall, the character here is, we are taking height of plant. Height of plant. Now, tall plant and dwarf plant. Homozygous, since we are saying true breeding or pure breeding forms, tall means 2 capital T's, dwarf means 2 small t's. Now the gametes produced by this are all going to be containing this form of the gene, and the gametes produced by the dwarf plant, all of them are going to contain this. So, in the F1 generation, when these 2 gametes combine, we get a plant with these 2 forms, that is one tall and one dwarf. And tall is the dominant character. So the dominant character is going to be expressed. That means in the F1 generation, all plants will be tall plants. In the F1 generation, these were the gametes formed. These were the gametes formed, and all plants in the F1 generation will be tall plants. Now, if in the F2 generation, crossing is done between 2 members of the same generation, the gametes produced will be of 2 kinds, from this plant also and from this plant also. Now when crossing takes place, this can combine with this, we get the genetic constitution as 2 capital T's. This can combine with this, we get the genetic constitution as 1 capital T and 1 small t. This can combine with this, we get a genetic constitution capital T and small t. If we combine these 2, the genetic constitution will be 2 small t's. So, the external appearance in these 3 cases is going to be tall plants. This is 3 tall plants in the F2 generation will be obtained. In F2 generation, we are going to get 3 tall plants and 1 dwarf plant. This is the external appearance of the plant. The visible character, the observable character. So we say the phenotype. 3 tall and 1 dwarf plant is going to produce. Now if we consider the ratio, we say the phenotypic ratio. The phenotypic ratio is 3:1. 3 tall plants and 1 dwarf plant. If we see the genetic expression, this is the genetic expression or the genotype which is not visible externally. So the genotypic ratio in this case we see is 1 pure tall and 2 hybrid talls and 1 pure dwarf plant. Or we can say 1 is homozygous for tallness because the 2 forms of the same character, the 2 alleles of the same character are dominant. These 2 are hybrid because 2 forms, one is dominant, the other is recessive. One is dominant, the other is recessive. So we say 2 plants produced are heterozygous dominant because the dominant character is going to be expressed. So the dominant character here is tallness. So the plant is going to be tall. But genetically, the genetic constitution is such that it is hybrid. It has both the characters, both the forms of the same character, but expressed one is the one that is dominant. And this is homozygous dwarf, that is a pure breeding dwarf plant. So this is a monohybrid cross. So based on this, monohybrid cross is a cross between 2 organisms having different alleles of the same gene. For example, it is a cross between 2 forms of a single trait. Here the trait that we have taken into consideration is the height of the plant. So based on this, the first law, that is law of dominance, that out of the 2 forms, the dominant character is going to be expressed. So law of dominance states that out of a pair of allelic forms, one is dominant and the other is recessive. The traits, characters are controlled by alleles which occur in pairs, and only one allele expresses itself in the F1 generation. The factor that is expressed is called the dominant character, and the one that is hidden is called the recessive character. So this is the first law. So if you have to write the first law, we will define the first law. Everybody has understood the monohybrid cross. Now I am going to write the first law. First law of Mendel is called law of dominance. Name itself is telling you that the dominant character will be expressed and the recessive character will be hidden or it will be suppressed. So first law of dominance states that out of a pair of allelic forms of a single character, one is dominant and the other is recessive, that is not expressed. Dominant is the one that is expressed and recessive is the one that is not expressed. So this is the first law. Then we come to the second law, that is law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. Now this is also based on a monohybrid cross, inheritance of one gene, but let us take a different example. In this we take the character flower position. One flower is axillary, true breeding form, axillary, the other is terminal. So in F, the gametes produced, these are the gametes, all will be capital A, in this case all will be small a, these are the gametes. Now in F1 generation, we see all plants are going to have axillary flowers. All axillary flowers will be produced. The plants are going to produce axillary flowers. Now if two plants of the F1 generation are crossed, there will be two kinds of gametes formed by each plant. So when these gametes combine, we get two capital A's, we get one capital A, one small a, we get one capital A, one small a. With these two, we get two small a's. So clear, one pure axillary, hybrid axillary flowers and pure terminal. So again, the phenotypic ratio we have taken into consideration in this monohybrid cross, a different character, that is flower position. Phenotypic ratio is 3 plants with axillary flowers and 1 flower which is terminal. And genotypic ratio is also 1 pure axillary, 2 hybrid and 1 pure terminal. That is 1:2:1 is the genotypic ratio. Now, law of purity of gametes, that is, even when two plants of the F1 generation which were heterozygous, which were not pure, had one dominant and one recessive character, the gametes produced by them, these are the gametes, the gametes produced by them were pure. There were no mixing of characters. The gametes produced by them were pure. There was segregation of gametes and the generation that was formed did not show any mixing of characters. So we say that law of segregation or law of purity states that allelic pairs separate or segregate during gamete formation, and the paired condition is restored by random fusion of gametes during fertilization. In this case, fusion of gametes is taking place. The gametes that are formed are pure. Or we even define this as the hybrids of F1 generation having two contrasting characters. These are the hybrids of F1 generation. These two, which have two contrasting characters, that is, they are heterozygous. Of a dominant and a recessive type, these factors, though they remain together for a long time, but they do not mix with each other. They separate or segregate at the time of gamete formation, so that a gamete carries only one factor, either dominant or recessive. Like these are the gametes. The gametes carry either the dominant factor or the recessive factor, never both. Both are present together in the F1 generation, but they are not mixing. They are pure. So this is law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. So now I will write this law for you. Law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. It states that the allelic pairs separate or segregate during gamete formation and the paired condition is restored by random fusion of gametes during fertilization. So both these laws, the first and the second law given by Mendel, are based on the inheritance of one gene, as I told you in the beginning. Here we are taking into consideration one gene means one character. In the first case, we took the character as height of the plant, and in the second monohybrid cross, I showed you one character, that is position of the flower, either axillary or terminal. So these are two forms, two allelic forms of the character flower position. Okay. Now the limitations of law of segregation. This law applies only to diploid organisms that form haploid gametes and which reproduce sexually. It applies only to traits that are controlled exclusively by a single gene pair in which one of the two alleles is dominant over the other. It does not apply to alleles which are incompletely dominant or co-dominant. Those alleles which are not completely dominant or which exist as co-dominant forms, the law does not apply to them. Then this law does not apply to genes that collaborate or vary in their expression, how they are going to be expressed. It also does not apply to genes that are pleiotropic, that is genes that have two or more phenotypic effects. Phenotypic means external appearance. And it also does not apply to traits which are caused by many gene pairs. So these are the limitations of law of segregation. Now we will do Mendel's third law, that is law of independent assortment, which says that when there is a cross between two organisms having two pairs of contrasting characters, then the segregation and inheritance of each pair of character is independent of the other. Now to explain this, we will do the dihybrid cross, in which we will take into consideration two characters, allelic forms of two pairs of characters between two organisms simultaneously. A dihybrid cross, as I told you earlier, is a cross between two organisms having two pairs of characters simultaneously. That is a dihybrid cross. So here we will take a dihybrid cross, and the characters that we are going to take is seed shape, one character, and seed color will be the other character. Now two allelic forms of seed shape are round seeds and wrinkled seeds. As I told you, the dominant character is written in capital letters and same letter in small is written for the recessive form. Seed color, if we take into account, let us say yellow seeds and green seeds. So these are two characters and these are the allelic forms. One form round, wrinkled. Yellow, one form and other green. So two characters and two allelic forms of the character. So the gametes which are formed from this is the parent. This is the parent. The gametes formed from this will be RY. The gamete formed from this will be small r, small y. Now in the F1 generation, when the gametes combine, the plant will be capital R, small r, capital Y, small y, which means the dominant character will be expressed. So all plants of the F1 generation will have round seeds that will be yellow. Now, this is a hybrid plant in which the dominant character round and the dominant character yellow seed is expressed. Now, if two plants of the F1 generation cross, two plants of the F1 generation are made to cross, this plant will form four gametes, four kinds of gametes. One gamete is capital R, capital Y. Second, capital R, small r, capital Y, small r, small y. So these are the four kinds of gametes that will be formed from one parent. The other parent will also form the same four gametes. Now, in my previous class, I had mentioned about the Punnett square. Punnett square is a checkerboard or a graphic representation. So for this, we will have to draw a Punnett square to make it easy to understand. Now, four kinds of gametes are formed. Capital R, small y, small r, capital Y, small r, small y. These are the gametes that are formed. Suppose this is the male parent, this is the female parent. The female parent will also form four kinds of gametes. So, the four gametes here will be small r, capital Y, small r, small. Now, when these combine, this is two capital R's, two capital Y's. Two capital R's, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small r, capital Y, capital Y. Capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Then capital R, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small y, small y. Capital R, small y, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small y, small y, small y. Capital R, small y, capital Y, capital Y. Capital R, capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Small r, capital Y, capital Y. Small r, capital R, two small r's, one capital Y, one small y. Then capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Capital R, small y, small y. This is small y. Small r, capital Y, small y. And small r, capital Y, capital Y. Small r, small y, small y. Now if we see, this is the genotype of the 16 kinds of plants that will be formed by combination of the two plants in the F1 generation. There is crossing done between two plants of the F1 generation. This is plants of F1 generation. What we are getting here is F2 generation. Now see, the dominant character is expressed capital R, capital Y. So this will be, now the different kinds that we get, see capital R, capital Y. So one kind will be round and yellow seeds. So this is round and yellow. We will count. 1 round and yellow, 2 round and yellow, 3 round and yellow, 4 round and yellow, 5 round and yellow. This will be round and green. This is 6 round and yellow. This is round and green. This is 7 round and yellow. This is 8 round and yellow. This is 9 round and yellow. So we get 9 plants that are out of 16. 9 plants are round and yellow. Then we come to this. This is round and green. Let us count how many will be round and green. This is 1 round and green. This is 2nd round and green. This is wrinkled and yellow. This is wrinkled and yellow. This is the 3rd round and green. So we get 3 out of 16 round and green. Then we come to this. This is wrinkled and yellow. This is wrinkled and yellow. Let us count how many wrinkled and yellow we will get. 1 wrinkled and yellow, 2 wrinkled and yellow, 3 wrinkled and yellow. So we get 3 plants that will be wrinkled seeds and yellow seeds. Now only one we get here with wrinkled and green. That is only 1 out of 16. So this is what? The external appearance, the observable characteristic that we can see. So this is the genotype. What we have shown in this Punnett square between gametes of the two plants, how plants are being formed, this is the genotype. Genotypic ratio therefore is, let us write the genotypic ratio of a dihybrid cross. Genotypic ratio is 9:3:3:1. So this was a dihybrid cross showing us the inheritance of two genes. 2 allelic forms of each gene are shown here. This is the character or trait, and 2 allelic forms, round and wrinkled. Second, seed color, yellow and green. So yellow and green are 2 allelic forms of one character, seed color, and round and wrinkled are 2 allelic forms of one character, that is seed shape. Now based on this dihybrid cross, the third law of Mendel states that whenever 2 pairs of contrasting characters are taken into consideration in a hybrid, the segregation and inheritance of each pair is independent of the other, because there is no mixing of characters that is taking place. They segregate and each pair is independent of the other. So this is the dihybrid cross. Now I will erase this and write the third law of Mendel on the board. So the dihybrid cross explains inheritance of 2 genes for the third law of Mendel. So third law of Mendel is law of independent assortment. Which states that when two pairs of contrasting characters are taken into consideration in a hybrid, the segregation and inheritance of one pair of characters is independent of the other pair of characters. This is Mendel's third law, that is law of independent assortment. So that's all for today. Good luck till next time.